Hey, it's Andrew Beck here at BTO Range in Conroe, Texas, and we have something, we've not done this type of video before, but the question does come up, at least over at the store quite a bit when people are selling us guns. They'll bring in a, quote, custom rifle and want to sell it, and most of the time we can't do it because it's truly not a custom rifle. Sometimes they're referring to a sporterized military rifle or something along those lines. And as a general rule of thumb, the more heavily customized a rifle is, this doesn't pertain just to rifles, but whatever you buy and sell, whether it's cars, boats, motorcycles, guns, whatever, the more heavily customized it is, the narrower the buying audience gets, right? So and I'll tell them, look, this gun is built for one guy, and that's you, and you're selling it, and now I've got to find you again to sell it to that person. So most of the time we can't make a deal. But there are exceptions to the rule, and those exceptions would be a truly well-built rifle, a custom rifle that has enough appeal to a broader spectrum of customer that it's worth investing the inventory dollars in. Or in the case of an individual buying it, you know, it's a worthy spot to park some money for a decent rifle. And this is one of those. So the gun came in, we bought it with, I think, 6 or 7 other rifles. There were some Remingtons, a Browning, things of that nature. And then this gun was in the middle of it. And it's kind of unique in many aspects, but I wanted to go over the gun kind of, not spend a ton of time, but I wanted to go over it kind of from stem to stern to show you what I look for when somebody says custom rifle and how I evaluate it. Now, bear in mind, that's just me. There are plenty of other people out there that do what I do, and they may have a different way of doing it, but this is what's worked for me for an embarrassing amount of years now. So probably in the neighborhood of 4 decades. That's sad. Anyway, what we have here is a little bolt gun built on a 1910 Mexican Mauser action. And that's where the uniqueness kind of starts with that gun, is what the action was that it's based on. So these actions are small ring Mauser actions similar to the 95 Mauser, but with a 98 Mauser bolt, basically. So it has the third lug back here on the bolt, and it cocks on opening just like a 98 Mauser. It is a 98 Mauser action, but with basically the small ring of the 95, so it takes a small barrel shank. So there are many different types of Mauser actions. People generally, when they say it's a Mauser action, they lump it all, they lump them all together as a Mauser action. That's really not fair to the genre, because although the more standard one's a standard Mauser Gewehr 98 action, there were many different models, many variations of the theme. And one of those was small ring versus large ring, the standard rifle being a large ring, and then the Chilean Mausers, the 95s, the Swedes, that type of stuff based on the small ring. And what we're referring to is this front receiver ring, the diameter of the front receiver ring. The large ring Mauser has a definite step here, and this the front receiver ring is larger than the rest of the action. And this is a small ring where it's a consistent diameter. And typically those were done in 7mm Mauser or 7x57. And this one, as a 1910 Mexican Mauser, would have also been chambered that way originally. Now, they were actually made in Mexico. The Mexicans had used Mauser actions designed for them made in Germany prior to, but with the 1910 Mauser, they really wanted to bring production domestically to Mexico, so they set up some factory armories in Mexico City and began producing the guns. And they were well done guns. They really were. and they were fully capable of not just 7 Mauser, but whatever chambering you would want to put in it. So on the 1910 action, whatever you would chamber a standard 98 Mauser for, you can chamber the 1910 Mexican Mauser for. Now, having said that, there were only somewhere, gosh, I don't know the exact number, 40,000 maybe total were made of the 1910s. So an unaltered original 1910 Mexican Mauser is quite a bit of money on the Mauser, on the collectible military or military surplus circuit. So I'm not sure when this rifle was built. It was probably built in the 50s, would be my guess. And things were different then as far as what was considered collectible. So anyway, so we have, and because this is that small ring Mauser and it's an intermediate length Mauser action, so this gun would not be really suitable for, say, 30-06 or 270 simply from the length of the action and the length of the available ejection port. So this rifle is chambered for 284 Winchester, which is a great cartridge. And it's a great cartridge for an action of this size. The 284 Winchester cartridge was developed by Winchester for the Model 88 lever action rifle and then subsequently the Model 100 semi-auto, which are both basically short action guns, lever action and semi-auto. But the 284 was originally designed to give the user 270 Winchester ballistics in basically a short action rifle, and it kind of got there using that 7mm bullet. So it's a good choice for an intermediate length bolt gun like this 1910. So other great choices would have been 257 Roberts. Obviously would have been a good choice. Obviously 308, things of that nature. 284 is not a bad choice. The caliber is still being loaded today. You can still buy new ammunition for it. It's not inexpensive. 257 Roberts is one of my favorite calibers. Would have made a great Roberts. But anyway, 284 is what it is, and that's not a bad choice by any stretch of the imagination. So 7mm caliber, basically giving you 270 Winchester ballistics out of this little rifle. So it's not unusual when we see these rifles. Now, a custom rifle versus a sporterized rifle, right? So when we talk about a sporterized military rifle, typically we're talking about the military barrel still exists in the same military caliber, and it's been shortened typically and recrowned maybe, and then the stock has been, the top wood's been taken off, the stock's been shortened and all that. So those typically don't bring much money. They still have use. They're still utilitarian rifles and can be used for whatever hunting purposes you want to use them for. But obviously a talented gunsmith or gunmaker took this action and built a rifle out of it. So I've had the gun apart to try to evaluate the materials that were used, because when I look at a custom rifle like this, I want to know as much as I can about what the material is that has been used in the rifle and how well it's put together. So unfortunately, I can't tell you what barrel that is as far as manufacturer. Sometimes, particularly Douglas barrels, are marked on the underside. That's not. Most manufacturers mark their barrel blanks on the back end of the face of the barrel, and that gets that marking gets removed during the threading and installation process. So they're just not marked, and this is the same. It's not marked as to manufacturer, and it's not unusual to have a custom barrel such as this at an odd barrel length, not a standard barrel length. This is 21.5 inches to the bolt face. So when you're making a barrel, even if you buy a pre-contoured blank, you end up losing. If you buy a 24-inch pre-contoured blank, it usually will trim up to about 23 inches or maybe a little more, because you lose some of that length when you crown it, or if you face off the end here when you thread it. So there's a a little bit of variation there. So if let's just go from muzzle to butt on this gun and talk about the features of it and why that makes this gun worth a little bit of money. So we have the barrel. We have a nice pleasant contour. The crown is a typical rounded commercial crown. That's why I think it is a 50s gun. Newer guns, newer builds, and we do the same thing, is typically some form of 11-degree crown or a recessed cut crown here, and this is a standard commercial crown. We have a brazed on sling swivel attachment point to the barrel instead of here in the stock. I like that a lot. I think it gives a little bit of extra class to the rifle itself. Now, obviously, there are really nice sling swivel studs that are put in the stock. So, but this could have been done with a band. There are a couple different ways to do that. The wood itself is very nice piece of American black walnut with some really nice figure in the buttstock and straight figure through the pistol grip, and we have some figure up here in the beginning of the forend. So that's kind of what you want to see. You don't want to see a heavily figured through the thinnest part of the stock. So this needs to be relatively straight grained, and it is. So this stock is well done. We have underneath, and I did pull these scope bases just to see, and it does have the correct Mexican arsenal markings on the top of the front receiver ring, and it's chamber dated 1931. So we're really fine with that identification of the action as a 1910 Mexican Mauser. Even the bolt stop. The tab on the top of the bolt stop has been really nicely checkered. So a lot of work has gone into this rifle. Now, the bottom metal of this, the bottom metal itself, as far as the metal here, is original military. It's been recontoured a little bit and reblued. Now, the reason that had to be that way is because of the intermediate length of that Mauser action, the hole-to-hole spacing of that 1910. It would be difficult to find commercial style bottom metal for it, but they were able to modify it and use and have an Oberndorf style release here in the front of the trigger guard and this straddle type floor plate. So the floor plate's not hinged. When you push this button here, the entire floor plate and follower, spring and follower, comes out the bottom. So the gun can be unloaded that way. So when we look at the bolt, on the 1910 Mauser, there are no bolts. It's its own bolt. It doesn't interchange, but you cannot put a standard 98 bolt into this action. You cannot put a Yugo M48 bolt in this action. It is its own thing. So they took the 1910 bolt, they did some things to it. We have a nice straight bolt handle here, a nice commercial bolt handle with a little bit of sweep, checkered on two panels, and we have a wing safety similar to an M70 safety in a factory shroud. Now that took some machine work. A lot of times it's a replacement shroud that goes on the back of these and either does away with the safety and they use a trigger mounted safety, or it has a wing safety attached to it. But this wing safety, the shroud has been milled and the wing safety has been correctly installed in that. The bolt itself has been engine turned or jeweled with a really fine pattern. And I've done this work, jeweling bolts before, and we had made a jig to index that bolt as you go around. And it's a lot easier to do with the larger, say, 3/16 inch swirls. But these are really small swirls. So, I mean, that's just a lot more time in the engine turning of this bolt. So the trigger in this gun is it's a single stage trigger. It's adjustable for length of pull, pre-travel and over travel. It looks like an older Timney unit. It's unmarked, but I think it is. So there's money there. And moving to the to the back of the stock, we have a Niedner style steel pistol grip cap. We have a correctly inletted rear sling swivel stud. And then we have a Niedner style steel butt plate with the widow's peak inletted into the stock there. So just a ton of work, all done by hand. The checkering is 20 lines per inch, hand cut on an extremely nice piece of wood. So this is what, in my opinion, a custom rifle should look like. And a lot of people will tell, and it's a valid point. Those Kevlar stocked, Cerakoted rifles that are being sold and being marketed as custom rifles today. It's a valid point that you can call those custom rifles because they certainly perform well, and for a lot of folks, the beauty is in their performance. But for me, it is really hard to beat highly figured walnut and matte blued steel. Rust blued steel. It's just hard to beat it. It just is craftsmanship beyond function, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Even the cheek piece on this rifle, this is a beaded cheek piece in the stock of this rifle, is what we have going on here. So a ton of work went into this rifle, and all of the component parts that were used are top-notch. Even the scope base. This scope base is an EAW pivot lock scope base, and that scope base is still available. These base and rings is available today at $399. If you were to order that online for that set of bases and rings, it'd be $400. So if you were to build this rifle today, $3,500 to $4,000 at the least to build this rifle, with most of that going into the stock and the checkering, the hand checkering of the stock would be a big chunk of that. So we haven't shot it. We've checked it to make sure it's shootable. It's safe to shoot, of course, but we haven't tried to group it or anything. It did have a Swarovski scope on it. We've pulled that scope to let somebody scope it with the scope of their choice, but it did have a Swarovski Habix A scope on it, a little 3-10, which is a good choice for this little 284. The gun weighs 7 pounds 6 ounces as it sits now, so it's not a super lightweight rifle by any stretch of the imagination, and you can make it lighter in a Kevlar fiberglass composite stock. So originality, condition, scarcity is what we always talk about. Scarcity, it's one of one, but that doesn't really mean anything because is it saleable is the problem, right? And 284 Winchester is a currently manufactured caliber. Would it be easier to sell in 308? 100%. It would be easier to sell in 308. The very first rifle I ever built when I was 14, I came across a Siamese Mauser action, and that action is even more specific than this one because it's set up for rimmed cartridges. And most people did them in 45-70 and called it a day, but not me. I should have done it in 303 British, but instead, being a kid, I did 25 Krag Ackley improved, which is 30-40 Krag neck down in a two-step process, blow the fire form the shoulder out, 25 caliber bullet. I had to make loading dies. I had to use a chambering reamer to cut the loading dies. But I ended up with a nice, I don't know how much money I put into it, saving up and buying parts and doing the work myself. But basically, it gave me a little bit better than 257 Roberts ballistics, and I had to work 3 times as hard to make the ammunition. And completely unsellable, simply from the ammunition perspective. But fortunately, 284 does exist out there. It's, again, a little bit pricey when you go to buy this stuff, but it's there. So it's saleable in that regard. The problem is that it's not going to be the everyman that buys the rifle. It's going to be somebody that really likes the the figure and the walnut and the overall aesthetic of the entire gun. So, and we still exist. That said, it's not going to bring the money that would cost to build it. They never do. If you were to commission this rifle to be built today, it would definitely, that number would definitely start with a 3 comma. And I doubt, I think this rifle will bring 1,200. I think it's probably where it's going to be. It's not maker marked. I don't know who built it, which is a shame because it's worthy of having the gun maker's name on it. I pulled it out of the wood to see if he'd stamped it on the bottom. They did caliber mark it on the side, nicely caliber 284 Winchester. And I thought maybe on the underside they would have a year and the gunsmith's name or something like that, but they do not. Now, obviously, if you have a really known gunsmith, P.O. Ackley, A.O. Needner, any of those really big names from the past, Sedgley on the Springfields, Griffin and Howe, those command money in their own right just from the maker's name, but we don't have that here. So what could be, if this was a P.O. Ackley build, we could add another $1,000 to that pretty easily on the money, but it's not. So we have to let the gun stand on its own. Now, for dealers, you're really taking that on spec as to whether that gun's going to sell or not. And you've got to know your own buying audience for that. So the gun's nicely bedded. The barrel action is nicely bedded into the wood. There's no reason this gun wouldn't shoot. You just have to find the guy, and you have to be willing to sit on it. So the way we look at it is we tend to go a little soft on the money compared to what the gun will bring, because we don't know how long it's going to take to bring the money. And time means a lot. People will tell you that aren't truly in the gun business when they buy a gun that it doesn't matter how long it takes to sell it, because they don't eat anything, but they do. They eat the time it takes to store them, warehouse them, be responsible for them to ATF. I mean, all that stuff, and the time, return on investment, there's a time factor to return on investment, and that's all kind of business 101 stuff that a lot of gun people don't have. But anyway, I figure the gun's going to run or sell reasonably quickly in that $1,200 range would be where I would price it at if I were pricing it. YouTube, I am not offering to sell this rifle by any way straight. And in fact, I might keep it because I like the caliber. But in any event, I thought it would be an interesting video to bring an actual custom rifle up on the bench and show what it looks like as opposed to what a lot of people are calling custom rifles and trying to sell as a custom rifle. A lot of folks bring us, quote, custom ARs, and it's hard for me to reconcile those two terms between custom and AR. It may be an AR that you built to your specifications, but to me that doesn't scream custom. But what do I know? Anyway, if you like what we're doing, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep bringing stuff to you as long as you keep watching. We appreciate you doing it. Hit that little bell that lets you know when we post some new stuff. We've got some cool stuff coming. We're going to do, here in the very near future, I just got in a RPB Mac 10 open bolt semi-auto pistol, which is kind of rare and unique and completely goofy, but you know, it's there. So hit that like button. Go to our website. If you have stuff that you want to sell, we purchase estates, we purchase collections, and we'll travel to do it. Go to our website, bto-range.com. Go to that page and give us a contact and see if we can get some business going. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.